Fog crawls from the Pacific Ocean. Beyond the gates on Sloat Boulevard stands a place that doesn't feel like a place. A new zoo spread across 100 acres. Elephants, seals, sea lions. Beautiful? Yes. But that's just the facade. Behind these enclosures, poisoned water, mass animal death, a conveyor belt of mortality. Bills pile up, bodies vanish at night, truth hides. To preserve the dream, the city and the banker had to lie. The press stays silent, workers are terrified, visitors know nothing, and there's more. Industrial runoff instead of clean water, thousands of ruined lives, a philanthropist killer. Can beauty make you immortal if it slowly poisons the defenseless? And the real question, who actually paid for Fleishhacker Zoo? And how much does this dream cost in lives? If you enjoy deep investigations into dark histories, please like. Spring 1929. San Francisco crawls out of the ruins of the 1906 earthquake and fire. The city rebuilds itself. The air smells of salt breeze and ambition. Beyond the city, at the ocean's edge, where Sloat Boulevard runs into fog, a wealthy banker looks at wasteland and sees not reality but fantasy, a world-class zoo. A place where children will laugh, where exotic animals will prove San Francisco is a great city, symbol of resilience, monument against the Depression, 10 years of work, thousands of working hands. Fleishhacker Zoo. It spreads along the ocean like a promise of the future transplanted into the present crisis. Concrete, enclosures, pools for sea lions, free admission for all. 100 acres of land, hundreds of animals, elephants from Asia, bears from Alaska, seals from the coast, monkeys, birds, big cats, a free zoo for free happiness. Under concrete and bars, a miracle of economy for the 1930s. Industrial water instead of drinking water. No filters, no laboratory, the cheap button pressed to the limit. Numbers tell you about scale, but they don't convey horror. Stand by the seal pool and look at the water. Green film on the surface, the smell of chemicals and rot. Sea lions refuse to enter. Birds die on shore. Architecture staged to impress, to declare, we are a great city. But behind the enclosures, a conveyor of death. Walk past the showpiece enclosures, past elephants and bears that are still alive, and another face appears. Behind beauty lies the infrastructure of death. Deep underground, pipes the size of a human arm pumping poisoned water from Lake Merced. Pumps push industrial waste. Pools fill with a mixture of chemicals and filth. No recirculation systems, no purification, no analysis. Water sits for weeks, turning into toxic soup. In summer it blooms, seals suffocate, birds go blind. On the grounds, 128 enclosures. Each requires water, each receives poison. Keepers move through the territory invisibly, so dead bodies vanish before dawn. New animals appear as if nothing happened. The zoo employs 50 people, keepers, veterinarians, cleaners, guards, gardeners. Each position has a purpose. Stay silent. The cost of maintaining the illusion is heavy. Water comes free, from the lake and runoff. Animals are constantly purchased, replacing the dead. Wages are paid if mouths stay closed. A structure of this size always demands sacrifice. Leaking pipes, dead birds, blind seals. Just replacing deceased specimens requires monthly purchases. Summer 1932. Triumph. Thousands of visitors every weekend. Children laugh, parents photograph, newspapers write, miracle amid the depression. For a few hours the dream feels whole. Under the enthusiasm, quiet pressure gathers. The zoo is magnificent, and it's also a machine that kills at frightening speed. Beauty is real, death is real. Together they will govern every day that follows. An unspoken question, present that summer and sharper with each month, begins to form. How long can this be hidden? To understand what happened next, you must understand who created this place and why. Let's go back to the beginning. The man who conceived the zoo was exactly who you might expect. Herbert Fleishhacker was born in 1872 to German immigrant parents in San Francisco. His father Aaron built a meat empire. Fleishhacker, German for butcher, name is destiny. Herbert inherited capital and multiplied it. Banker, investor, developer. By 50, he was among California's wealthiest men. But Herbert was different from typical tycoons. He wanted glory not through money, but through legacy. While other bankers built mansions, Herbert built public projects. Fleishhacker Pool, the world's largest outdoor pool. Fleishhacker Zoo, a gift to the city. Dreamer and pragmatist in one body. President of San Francisco's Park Commission. He spoke of duty to society. His passions lay in politics, control, monuments. He traveled through Europe, studying zoos, visiting Berlin, London, absorbing how space and animals could become a unified instrument of propaganda. By 57, he decided on something other philanthropists didn't do, not just a zoo, a political statement, a place where the city would prove its strength through exotica. The question was where? In 1925, Fleishhacker gained access to vacant land on the city's western edge by the ocean. It was windswept wasteland. He was captivated. Not just a place, an opportunity. Ocean meant scale. Wasteland meant freedom. Cheap land meant savings. He began planning not a small enclosure, but an animal empire. He began organizing financing, not a symbolic project, but gigantic. Private money, municipal funds, federal WPA programs, parcels accumulated. Over time, the budget exceeded reasonable limits. The plan formed quickly. Fleishhacker wanted a zoo that combined American scale with European prestige. Large enough to house rare animals, cheap enough to operate without admission fees. He wanted the zoo to speak without words. San Francisco is unconquerable. The vision was ambitious. The vision was also lethal. Fleishhacker understood that the city budget, squeezed by the Great Depression, couldn't afford expensive infrastructure. In 1929, it seemed reasonable to believe you could build cheaply and impressively. The initial budget was about $1 million. In crisis conditions, this was fantasy. And that was only the beginning. To make the idea real, Fleishhacker needed expertise. He needed architects, engineers, zoologists, but not expensive ones. People who could translate intention into concrete, water, enclosures, and working systems for minimum wages. He turned to municipal contractors, and in this choice lies the first mistake. Louis Hobart, architect of public buildings, known for his work on Grace Cathedral, by 1929 already 60 years old, experienced but not a zoology specialist. Hobart had never designed zoos. He built churches, banks, homes. Animals were decorative elements to him, like statues, living statues that needed water. The water problem became key. Drinking water was expensive. Municipal water supply required payment. The budget was tight. The solution came quickly: industrial water. Lake Merced, a large freshwater reservoir 3 miles from the zoo, used for the city's industrial needs. Cheap, available, nobody checked quality. The lake had history, once pristine. Native Americans fished there. Spanish explorers camped on its shores. 19th century saw picnics and recreation. Then development came. City grew, industry expanded, lake became convenient dumping ground. Out of sight, out of mind. Water that looked clear carried invisible death. Sewage systems leaked. Storm drains emptied industrial runoff. Tanneries, factories, slaughterhouses all contributed. By 1920s, the lake was contaminated. By 1930s, it was toxic. But it looked fine. That's what mattered. Surface appeared clean. No one tested beneath. Assumption passed for knowledge. Convenience trumped caution. The city designated it non-potable technical water. Translation: don't drink it, but use it for everything else. Parks, streets, construction, and fatally, zoo pools. Engineers laid pipes from the lake to the zoo. No filters, no purification facilities, direct supply, savings of 10 times. Fleishhacker approved. Hobart drew it up. The pipes were industrial grade, meant for irrigation, not animals. Metal pipes that leached compounds, joints sealed with lead-based materials. The delivery system itself added poison. Distance created delays. 3 miles of pipe, water sat stagnant in summer heat. Bacteria multiplied in transit. By the time water reached zoo, it was soup of death. Nobody tested, nobody questioned. The engineering was cheap and fast. Those were the only requirements. Function assumed, death unforeseen, or unseen, or ignored. Work began in 1929. The Great Depression hit in October. The stock market crashed, the economy collapsed, unemployment grew. But Fleishhacker didn't stop. On the contrary, accelerated. The federal government launched public works programs. WPA, Work Projects Administration. Goal: give work to the unemployed, build infrastructure. The zoo fit perfectly. Roosevelt's New Deal promised dignity through work, public projects for public good, infrastructure that would last generations, hope manufactured through concrete. WPA paid minimum wage, but minimum was more than nothing. Desperate men took any work, building roads, bridges, dams, and zoos. The workers were grateful. Photographs show them smiling. Hard hats, shovels, building America's future. They didn't know they were building death chambers. Irony compounds, progressive program funding, regressive project, federal money meant to lift people enabling animal suffering, New Deal idealism poisoning zoo pools. Workers mixed concrete not knowing what it would hold, laid pipes not knowing what would flow, built pools not imagining the deaths, honest labor producing dishonest result. Some workers probably suspected, saw the water source, knew Lake Merced's reputation, but jobs were scarce, questions unwelcome, survival outweighed conscience. Decades later, some learned truth, felt betrayed, thought they built something good, actually built killing machine, pride turned to shame, work tainted retroactively. Hundreds of workers arrived at the construction site. Diggers, concrete workers, welders. Their wages were paid by the federal government. Fleishhacker got the zoo almost free. Depression became his ally. Hobart designed. Fleishhacker insisted. More enclosures, wider pools, higher fences. The zoo grew, but grew wrong. Beauty over function, impression over animal health. Hobart struggled not with materials but with logic. He didn't understand biology. Seal pools were designed like ornamental fountains, bird enclosures, like farm hen houses. The collision of ignorance with ambition became a collision with death. Every decision, a mistake. Water against life, economy against ethics, architect against nature. And all of this built by desperate men. WPA workers grateful for any job. Men who lost everything in the crash, men with families to feed. They poured concrete, not knowing they built death chambers. The irony multiplies. Federal money meant to save people from depression employed them to build animal prisons. New Deal optimism poured into toxic pools, hope mixed with poison. 1930, the zoo partially opens. First animals arrive: seals from Alaska, sea lions from the California coast, pelicans, herons, ducks, monkeys from Central America. Transport was traumatic. Animals shipped in crates for days, stressed, dehydrated, frightened, then released into contaminated water. From one hell to another. Welcome to paradise. Consider the first seals, captured in Alaska, pristine waters, abundant fish, sudden nets, terror, crated, shipped south, days without proper water. Arrived at zoo traumatized, released into pools. First moments seemed good. Water, relief. Then the chemical burn began. Eyes stinging, skin irritating, something wrong. Instinct said, leave, but nowhere to go. Concrete walls, no escape, trapped in poison. Seals began refusing to swim, lay on concrete, confused, dying. First deaths came within weeks. Zoos celebrated opening, press photographed happy visitors. Behind scenes, bodies removed, replaced quickly, public never knew. The pattern established immediately, celebration fronting mortality, success masking failure, beauty hiding horror. From day one, the system was death. Visitors are delighted. Newspapers write enthusiastic reports. New wonder of San Francisco. Fleishhacker's gift to the city. Hope amid crisis. First weeks, triumph. Then death begins. Quiet, gradual, invisible to visitors. Seals stop eating. Sea lions lie at pool's edge, refusing to enter the water. Birds begin losing feathers. Ducks develop ulcers on their feet. Pelicans go blind. The veterinarian, one for the entire zoo, doesn't understand the cause. Fleishhacker demands silence. Keepers know. They see how animals suffer. They smell the water, green, murky, with film on the surface. But speaking is dangerous. This is the depression. Work can't be found. Fleishhacker created a system of silence. Workers sign non-disclosure agreements. Newspapers get access only to showpiece enclosures. Deaths are hidden. Now let's look at the water. What exactly flowed through pipes from Lake Merced? There was no analysis, no laboratory existed, but retrospective studies provide answers. Lake Merced was used by the city for industrial needs. Industrial waste was dumped there. Rainwater drained from streets carrying petroleum products, lead, chemicals. Near the lake ran sewage collectors. Leaks happened regularly. Fecal bacteria entered the water. Tests in the 1940s would show the lake was polluted for decades. But in 1930, nobody checked. Water from the lake went straight to zoo pools, without filtration, without chlorination, or with primitive hand chlorination. Keepers added chlorine by eye. Too little. Bacteria thrived. Too much. Chemical burns on animals. Ulcers on skin. Gill damage in fish. In summer, the water bloomed. Algae covered the surface. Oxygen disappeared. Algae toxins poisoned animals. Seals suffocated. Ducks died from liver failure. In winter, the water got colder, but not cleaner. Heavy metals settled on the bottom. Animals swallowed sediment. Lead, mercury, arsenic accumulated in tissues. Slow poisoning. Pools were designed without circulation. Water sat for weeks, became stagnant. Perfect environment for pathogens. Bacteria, fungi, parasites thrived. Engineering negligence was built into the design. The water supply system was designed for a city park, not for living beings. Animals became victims of economy. Now the numbers. Official statistics don't exist. Fleishhacker destroyed records, but keeper testimony and document fragments paint a picture. 1932, first full year of operation. Waterfowl population, about 300 specimens in spring. By fall, 200 remained. Losses, 30%. Official cause, natural attrition. 1933, sea lions, 17 specimens at year start. By year end, 11, 6 died. Official cause, infections. Real cause, toxic water. 1934, the worst year. Mass pelican deaths. Of 50, 20 survived. Cause, blindness from chemicals. Blind birds couldn't catch fish. Starvation finished what poison started. Total mortality of small species in first 3 years, over 30%. This isn't a zoo. This is a conveyor of death. Animals as expendable material. Fleishhacker knew. Internal reports from the zoo director mention urgent need to replace deceased specimens, not treatment, not improving conditions, replacement. The operating model was simple. Animal dies, body removed at night, new animal purchased and arrives early morning. Visitors see a full enclosure, illusion preserved. The cost of constant purchasing grew. Seals cost hundreds of dollars, exotic birds tens. But Fleishhacker paid because the alternative, admitting failure, and that was unacceptable. Now psychology. Who was this man? Herbert Fleishhacker, 70 years old by 1930, respected philanthropist, friend of the mayor, president of the Park Commission. Public image, kind grandfather giving joy to children, builder of pools and zoos, city patriot. Newspapers called him San Francisco's benefactor. He cultivated this image carefully. Photographs with children, ribbon-cutting ceremonies, speeches about civic duty, the performance of benevolence. Behind cameras, different man emerged, ruthless in business, demanding with subordinates, intolerant of criticism. The smile disappeared when doors closed. He fired staff who questioned decisions, blocked careers of those who opposed him, used power casually, cruelly, the gift-giver as tyrant. His philanthropy was strategic. Public works generated publicity. Publicity generated influence. Influence generated control. Generosity as power consolidation. The pool and zoo weren't gifts. They were monuments to himself. His name on buildings, his legacy in concrete, immortality through infrastructure. Reality. Rigid controller, authoritarian administrator, a man for whom reputation mattered more than lives. Animals were investments, failed investments that had to be hidden. Psychological portrait. Empire builder with megalomania. He couldn't tolerate criticism, wouldn't admit mistakes. The zoo had to be successful because he decided so. The trauma of depression intensified this. The economy was collapsing. Banks were closing, but his zoo operated. This proved he was stronger than crisis. Zoo reputation became his personal reputation. After first deaths, the decision matured. Hide it at any cost. Animals could be replaced. Truth couldn't be restored. Lies became strategy. Fleishhacker used connections. He knew newspaper owners. He financed their projects. In return, they didn't publish negative reports. Censorship through friendship. This was standard practice. Rich men owned media. Rich men protected rich men. The working class read newspapers controlled by the elite. Truth filtered through money. Fleishhacker sat on boards. Bank boards, hospital boards, museum boards. His name opened doors. His money closed mouths. Power through interlocking networks. When individual journalists tried to write about problems, their articles weren't printed. Editors received calls. Mr. Fleishhacker asked you to hold the publication. Articles disappeared. Young reporters learned fast. Write what offends no one important. Question nothing that matters. Build career by not rocking boats. Journalism as public relations. One reporter tried anyway. Wrote about green water and 6 seals. Editor killed the story. Reporter protested. Editor said, "We need advertising. Banks advertise. Fleishhacker owns banks. Do the math." Reporter quit. Found no other paper would hire him. Word spreads. Troublemakers starve. The system protects itself. Truth becomes unemployment. Keepers were intimidated. One tried to write a letter to the sanitary inspection. He was fired the next day. Reason, staff reduction. Others learned the lesson. Silence equals survival. His name was James Chen, Chinese immigrant. Worked at zoos since opening, loved animals, couldn't watch them die. Wrote detailed letter describing water, deaths, cover-up. Mailed it to City Health Department. Someone at Health Department called zoo. Professional courtesy. Warning, Chen fired before letter was formally received. Health Department never investigated. Letter filed, forgotten. Chen never found equivalent work. Depression made jobs scarce. Speaking truth made him unemployable. He worked odd jobs, died in 1942. His son became labor organizer, learned from father, systems protect themselves. Only collective action forces change. The keepers who stayed learned different lesson, survival through compliance. Witness evil, say nothing, collect paycheck, feed family, moral compromise as daily necessity. Some drank to cope, some quit, some stayed decades, growing numb. Trauma becomes normalized, horror becomes routine. The human capacity to adapt to wrongness. Years later, in old age, some spoke, gave interviews to researchers, oral histories, finally told what they saw, unburdened conscience, too late to matter. The zoo veterinarian, Dr. Samuel Craig, understood the problem. His reports documented symptoms, ulcers, blindness, organ failure, but he couldn't name the cause. Pressure from above. Craig tried to insist on water analysis. Fleishhacker refused. Too expensive. Not a priority. Animals get sick naturally. The veterinarian surrendered or was broken. Now let's look at visitors. Thousands of people every week, families with children. Free admission made the zoo accessible even during depression. This was rare joy. For many, this was the only entertainment they could afford. Movies cost money, restaurants cost money, the zoo was free, a gift in a time of scarcity. Nobody questioned the gift. Children laughed watching monkeys. Parents photographed elephants. Nobody noticed that seals didn't swim, that pool water was green, that birds were lethargic. People saw what they wanted to see: exotic animals, tropical birds, marine life, the dream of faraway places while broke, escapism through suffering they couldn't see. The Depression created a desperate audience. People needed hope, distraction, proof that something still worked. The zoo provided all three, even as it killed what it displayed. Sometimes visitors asked questions. Why is the seal lying on shore? Keepers answered, resting, warming in the sun. We'll swim soon. Lies as script. Rare observant people wrote letters. Water in the pool is a strange color. The seal looks sick. Why don't the birds fly? Letters reached the director. The zoo director, appointed by Fleishhacker, answered with templates. Thank you for your concern. Everything is under veterinary control. Normal behavior for this species. Dismissals. Serious complaints were ignored. If someone insisted, they were invited for a tour with explanations, shown healthy animals, problem enclosures avoided, theater of health. The press worked for Fleishhacker. Articles about the zoo were always positive. New arrivals, baby elephant born, popular San Francisco attraction. Focus on success. Deaths weren't mentioned. If an animal was well known, its disappearance was explained. Transferred to another zoo. Returned to natural habitat. Died of old age. Death as euphemism. Media strategy was simple. Control the narrative. Good news, loud. Bad news, silence. Fleishhacker was a master of this game. His connections ensured control. One case is telling. 1933, a popular sea lion nicknamed Barney died. Children loved him. Death could become scandal. Solution, no announcements. A new sea lion was brought in at night, named Barney. Visitors didn't notice the difference. One Barney replaced another. Animals are interchangeable. Illusion of continuity. Now, let's look at the mechanics of death. How exactly did animals die? What symptoms? What suffering? Keeper testimony provides a horrifying picture. Waterfowl, ducks and geese suffered first. Symptoms appeared within a week of placement in contaminated water. Loss of appetite, lethargy, then ulcers on feet. Ulcers started as small redness. Within days became open wounds, bacterial infection on top of chemical burns. Birds couldn't stand, lay down and never got up. Blindness in pelicans, chemicals in water attacked eyes. First corneal clouding, then complete blindness. A blind pelican can't hunt. Keepers hand-fed, but many refused food. Stress and pain. The process took weeks. Slow deterioration. First, birds missed catches, dove but couldn't see fish, then stopped trying, sat on rocks, heads hanging, waiting for death. One keeper remembered a pelican that walked in circles, blind, disoriented, calling. No answer came. Other birds avoided it. Instinct said, sick means danger. Isolation preceded death. Sea lions and seals, skin lesions, fur began falling out in patches, skin covered with ulcers, itching was unbearable. Animals rubbed against concrete until bleeding. The concrete pools had no give. Hard surfaces, animals scraped themselves raw, blood mixed with poisoned water. Open wounds in toxic solution, infection inevitable. Internal organs suffered from toxins. Liver and kidneys accumulated heavy metals, gradual organ failure. Animal weakened day by day, then death. Seals refused to enter water. Instinct said, danger. But thirst and heat forced them. They entered, drank, were poisoned. Vicious circle. Keepers witnessed agony. One recalled, a seal lay at pool's edge looking at the water. Didn't enter, just looked, as if it knew the water would kill it, but had nowhere else to go. Night shifts were worst. Animals died more often at night. Keepers found bodies in the morning, sometimes still warm. Orders, remove before gates open. The routine became mechanical. Check enclosures, find dead, load truck, drive to dump, return, hose down, prepare for replacement. No time for grief, no space for guilt. One keeper started drinking. Couldn't handle the death. Every morning, another body. He told himself, just a job. But animals looked at you, trusted you, then died from what you gave them. He quit after 2 years, never spoke about it publicly. Died in 1965. His daughter found a diary, brief entries. 3 ducks today. Seal by the rocks. Can't do this anymore. She tried to donate the diary to zoo archives. They declined. Not relevant to institutional history. She kept it, eventually donated to city archives, filed under miscellaneous. Few have read it. Bodies loaded onto trucks, taken to city dump or incinerated. No autopsies, no investigations, evidence destroyed. Veterinarian Craig kept records. His journals documented seal number 7, skin ulcers, kidney failure, death, pelican number 23, blindness, emaciation, death, but he didn't name the cause. The journals filled page after page, animal after animal, symptom after symptom, but never the word water, never the word poison, never the accusation. Craig knew, had to know. Veterinarian sees patterns, sees correlation. Widespread illness means environmental cause, but naming it meant ending career. So he documented without concluding. The journals were his insurance. Proof he saw, proof he recorded, proof he was competent, but proof without teeth, evidence without accusation, medical records as moral absolution. He told his wife, "I can't stop this. I can only witness it." She asked, "Then why stay?" He answered, "Because someone should count the dead." Journals were kept in his office. After his retirement in 1936, the journals vanished, probably destroyed by administration order, evidence erased. But Craig kept copies, locked in his home. His widow found them after his death in 1948. She considered publication. Lawyers advised against libel concerns. Fleishhacker still had power. She kept them in her attic. Decades passed. After she died in 1973, her children cleaned the house, found moldy boxes, threw them out. The evidence went to landfill. History lost. Now the economics of death. How much did maintaining the illusion cost? Constant animal purchasing required enormous funds. Where did the money come from? The math was brutal. Each dead animal meant replacement costs, plus transport, plus quarantine, plus staff time. The system was designed for permanence. Reality delivered turnover. Accounting showed the problem. Line item, collection acquisition. Year 1, modest. Year 2, doubled. Year 3, tripled. Exponential growth in death expenses. But line items hide truth. Collection acquisition sounds like growth, like success, like expansion. Actually meant replacing poisoned animals, hiding failure through euphemism. Budget meetings never questioned. Commissioners assumed growth meant popularity, more animals needed for more visitors. Nobody asked, where are the old animals? Fleishhacker used several sources. First, his personal fund. He allocated money as charity. Tax deductions made this profitable. Animal deaths as business expense. Second source, municipal budget. The zoo received subsidies as a city institution. Funds went to collection expansion, euphemism for replacing the dead. Third source, federal programs. WPA continued funding zoo projects, building new enclosures, hiring workers. Part of money was redirected to animal purchases. Cost of one seal, $200 to $300. Exotic bird, $50 to $100. Sea lion, $400 to $500. Multiply by dozens dying annually. The sums added up. By 1934, expenses for collection expansion exceeded costs for all other maintenance. Financial reports showed anomaly, but no questions were asked. Because Fleishhacker controlled the park commission. He approved budgets, he appointed directors, he was the system. He wasn't going to audit himself. The alternative was clear. Water supply modernization, installing filters, building purification facilities. Estimated cost, $50,000. One time. But this meant admitting the problem. Public admission that water was poison, that animals were dying, that the zoo was failure. Fleishhacker chose to spend more but stay silent. Economics of absurdity. Fixing the system was cheaper, but admitting error was more expensive. Reputation cost more than money, so money flowed to purchase new victims. Now let's look at 1935-1936. Turning point. The system began cracking, not from humanism, but from economic inefficiency. Fleishhacker faced legal problems unrelated to the zoo but weakening his position, investigation of his banking operations, fraud suspicions, press attention. His influence weakened. Newspapers became less obedient. In 1936, the San Francisco Chronicle published a small note. Frequent deaths at zoo raise questions. The note was cautious, didn't accuse, asked questions, but this was breakthrough. First time the problem hit the press. Fleishhacker was furious, but couldn't stop it. Veterinarian Craig retires. New veterinarian, Dr. Edward Hartley, young, idealistic, unintimidated. He starts asking questions, demands water analysis. Hartley was 32, fresh from veterinary school at UC Davis, trained in modern methods, believed in science, hadn't learned yet that science bows to power. He arrived in fall 1936, toured the zoo, saw the pools, smelled the water, examined the animals, immediately knew something wrong, asked to see records. Records were incomplete. Mortality listed as various causes. No pattern acknowledged. No investigation conducted. Hartley asked, why no water testing? Told, budget constraints. He pushed back, wrote memos, requested meetings. Administration stalled, gave excuses. Next quarter, after review, pending approval. Bureaucratic runaround. Hartley grew frustrated, spoke with keepers. They told him everything, off the record, afraid to testify, but confirmed his suspicions. The water was killing. He threatened to resign publicly, write to newspapers, contact health department. Administration panicked. That kind of publicity would force action. Damage control required. Administration resists, but Hartley insists. He threatens to leave publicly. That would be scandal. In 1937, finally the first official water analysis is conducted. Results are horrifying. Fecal bacteria, thousands of times above normal. Heavy metals, lead, mercury, arsenic in dangerous concentrations. Industrial chemicals, toxic compounds. Water in zoo pools classified as unsuitable for contact with living organisms. Official conclusion, black and white, proof. Hartley demands immediate action. Close the pools, ban use of Lake Merced, install filters, administration in panic. Fleishhacker tries to suppress the report. But a copy reaches the city's sanitary inspection. Inspectors must respond. Official investigation begins. Zoo under threat of closure. Fleishhacker uses remaining connections. Meetings with mayor, pressure on inspectors, promises to fix everything. Threats of lawsuits, combination of carrot and stick. Compromise reached. Zoo not closed, but modernization required. Deadline 2 years. Fines for non-compliance. Fleishhacker agrees. No alternative. The compromise was political. City needed zoo to stay open. Employment, tourism, public morale. Closing would admit Depression 1. Couldn't allow that symbol. Fleishhacker needed to avoid criminal charges. Animal cruelty laws existed. Weak, but existed. Public trial would destroy reputation. Everything he built for legacy would crumble. So both sides agreed to forget. No prosecution, no closure, just quiet fix. Money changes hands, records disappear, everyone moves forward, past buried. Newspapers reported zoo to upgrade facilities. Positive spin, progress narrative. No mention of why, no mention of dead animals, no mention of poisoned water. 1938, modernization begins. New pipes from city water supply. Installation of primitive filters. Not perfect, but better than poison. Cost of work, $70,000, more than initial estimate, but less than was spent on animal purchases over 5 years. The irony is obvious. Fleishhacker pays from personal funds. Publicly, this is additional gift to the city. In reality, payment for silence, to avoid criminal prosecution. Because legally he could be charged. Animal cruelty, misuse of municipal funds, falsifying reports. But trial means scandal. The city didn't want scandal. Modernization completed by 1940. Mortality drops sharply. Animals begin living longer. Water cleaner. System works. Finally. But the price already paid. Hundreds of animals died over 10 years. Exact number unknown. Records destroyed. But estimates say over 500 specimens, maybe more. Now the aftermath. What happened to the zoo after? Fleishhacker died in 1957, 85 years old. Obituaries called him great philanthropist. The zoo. His legacy. The dark history of the 1930s wasn't mentioned, buried with documents. The zoo continued operating, gradually improved, new enclosures, better conditions. 1950s, 1960s, modernization continues. Care standards rise. Society begins caring about animal welfare. Old methods disappear. Post-war prosperity changed attitudes. Americans had money again, traveled abroad, saw better zoos, demanded better at home. Animal welfare movement grew slowly. Television changed everything. Nature documentaries showed animals in wild. People saw how they should live. Concrete cages looked cruel. Pressure mounted for reform. 1970s brought legislation. Animal Welfare Act strengthened. Inspections increased, standards enforced. Zoos had to modernize or close. San Francisco Zoo modernized. The old guard retired. New managers came with new ideas. Veterinary science advanced. Understanding of animal needs deepened. The horrors of the 1930s seemed impossible now. 1990s, 2000s, San Francisco Zoo becomes modern institution. Accreditation, breeding programs, educational projects, recognition at national level. But the territory is the same. Some old pools still exist, rebuilt, renovated, under the concrete, pipes from the 1930s, history in the foundation. Physical space holds memory, soil where bodies were buried, concrete that touched poison water, metal pipes that carried death. You can rebuild, can't erase. Workers renovating in 1990s sometimes found things. Old pipes, rusted equipment, once bones, animal bones in filled dirt, evidence of what was hidden. No one publicized findings, quietly disposed. Construction continued. Modern zoo built over old graves, layers of history, layers of silence. Tour guides don't mention. Educational plaques skip decades. Official timeline jumps from founding 1929 to renovation 1960s, the middle erased. Modern zoo management doesn't publicize the dark past. Official history begins with founding of the great Fleishhacker Zoo, problems not mentioned. Researchers studying archives find fragments of truth, scraps of reports, keeper testimonies, newspaper notes. Mosaic of death assembles slowly. One historian in 2005 published an article, Dark Years of San Francisco Zoo. Documented facts, zoo refused to comment. Too long ago. Different times. Everything's different now. True, but incomplete. Acknowledging past mistakes is important, not for accusations, but for lessons. The zoo didn't do this. Preferred silence. Surviving animals from those years passed genetic consequences to offspring. Some species bred at the zoo showed anomalies, possibly toxin traces, possibly coincidence. Lake Merced was cleaned in the 1960s, no longer used for industrial needs, became recreational area, fishermen, boats, walks, beautiful. Few know its history. Now the lesson. Why does this matter today? Because history repeats. Economy against ethics, reputation against truth, beauty against life. Modern zoos face similar pressures. Budgets tight, attendance matters. Animals still suffer when money decides. The mechanism persists, only the scale changes. Factory farms today echo Fleishhacker's logic. Hide suffering, maximize efficiency, control narrative, profit over welfare. The zoo was just smaller, more visible. Research labs face same choices. Animal testing continues. Oversight varies. Companies self-report. Profit motive conflicts with welfare. Craig's dilemma repeats daily. The lesson isn't just about zoos. It's about systems that value appearance over reality, that prioritize reputation over truth, that sacrifice the powerless to preserve the powerful. Fleishhacker Zoo, perfect case of how ambition kills. Great project built on bones, philanthropy stained with blood. Lesson, facade beauty often hides system ugliness. Free admission for people paid with animal lives. Children's joy built on creature suffering. Lesson 2, silence kills. Keepers knew, veterinarian knew, journalists suspected, but the system suppressed truth until economics forced change. Lesson 3, reputation costs more than life for those building empires. Fleishhacker chose glory, animals paid, choice made thousands of times, in zoos, on farms, in laboratories. The pattern persists everywhere. Corporations hide pollution, governments deny atrocities, institutions protect image over truth. Fleishhacker's playbook, scaled up. Whistleblowers still get fired, documents still disappear, PR still trumps reality, the mechanisms refined, not eliminated, more sophisticated suppression. We tell ourselves that was then, we're better now, standards higher, oversight stronger, but structures remain. Power protects power, money silences truth. Every institution has its Fleishhacker, every system its Craig, every workplace its Chin. Different names, same dynamics, history as template. The zoo teaches, watch what's hidden. Question official narratives. Follow the money. Demand evidence. Trust patterns over promises. Advice to researchers, search not in official reports but in sanitary service archives, in worker testimonies, in financial anomalies. Truth lies where they tried to hide it. Who paid for Fleishhacker Zoo? Animals who died in agony? Workers who stayed silent from fear? The city that closed its eyes? Visitors who didn't know? How much does a dream cost? More than money, it costs lives, conscience, truth, and willingness to face mistakes. The zoo survived because it changed, but changed too late. If you enjoy deep investigations into dark histories, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support makes these detailed stories possible. Tell me in the comments, which dark story should we investigate next? Other zoos with similar pasts, Great Depression projects built on suffering, or something unexpected? These places aren't just institutions, they're mirrors of human nature, built with good intentions, paid for with terrible prices, preserved through forgetting. Every zoo has its shadows, every ambition has its price. Fleishhacker proves this better than any textbook. Charity on the surface, cruelty in the foundation. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next investigation.